Okay, so I thought I'd do a retrospective of the Series 5 of Doctor Who, which has just finished. And I'm not going to do one of those super long, 3 part, in depth analysis of each episode. I'm just going to go over the series as a whole and just give an overall impression. Now, before I get into my two big gripes with this series, first I'm just gonna give a quick run through of the episodes and just give a quickie on what I thought. The 11th hour, mm, okay for an opener. The opening was really good with the Doctor sort of trying out all the foods and being very careless, but the rest of the episode was really mediocre. And Prisoner Zero, not memorable. I mean, let's face it, how long ago was it that we had shapeshifters on Doctor Who? The Beast Below. Okay, this one wasn't that brilliant. You'd think that it would be something scary, like the creature below would be something terrifying, something that's sort of threatening the Earth colonies. You'd expect there to be this big government conspiracy of why people are getting sent down there. The clown robot things, the ones that turn their head, which I thought were actually pretty cool. And when I saw them in the trailer, I thought, oh good, they're going to do a nice scary sort of circus carnival story. And they didn't. They wasted perhaps very good monsters on a story where they really had no purpose in being there. Victory of the Daleks, a big, big waste. This is, you have Winston Churchill, you have World War II, you have the Blitz, you have Daleks. You could do so many cool things within that 45-minute format, and what we got was a very washed down version of Power of the Daleks. Winston Churchill almost served no purpose. I thought that the sort of it being set in the bunker the whole time was pretty redundant because it wasn't that long ago when we had a very good Blitz story in the form of Empty Child, where we got great visuals and some good design and some great night shooting. And the ending fight between the Dalek Sorcerer and the Super Spitfire, I mean, that was interesting, but it wasn't anything unique. Also, I have to say that the new Daleks, I like the red one, but still, they do look a lot faker than the Russell T Davies Daleks. You can't deny that. The minute you see them painted in primary colours, they just lose that little bit of menace. They no longer feel like these cold machine beings. Now that they're in bright colours, it's almost like the show's laughing at them. The Angel two-parter was another waste because, well, I'll get into it in a bit, but they were really wasted this time around. The angels were just not scary. I like the idea that the angels don't have one form and that they can turn into any statue. That is an idea that I genuinely do like. The problem is it was really wasted this time. They just weren't as scary. And they revealed the angels too early on. I would have rather had it that at the end of episode 1 it was the angels who were revealed to kill the soldiers. I didn't want that made so obvious early on because it took out the element of surprise and it took out a lot of the menace. Because in the original, in Blink, we didn't know that the angels were responsible until much later into the episode. Here, it pretty much flat out says within the first 10 minutes the angels are the bad guys. Vampires of Venice was another waste. This was where we could have had some really cool sort of mystery with the vampires, and that didn't happen. We had a relatively bloodless story. Compare this to State of Decay, and will come off as a really pale, really watered down vampire story. It's just, you'd think that since they're doing obviously an homage to the Hinchcliffe era with this sort of horror movie monsters, you'd think that they'd actually do something really cool and interesting. And I do like the idea of women vampires, what guy doesn't, but once again, they really blew a good chance to do something genuinely cool. The Silurians. I actually like these two episodes. I do think that this time they did implement some cool ideas with the sort of the graves and the earth snatching, and the Virgin and the underground sets of the Silurians were actually pretty good. I do admit I hate this sort of humanizing thing where they say it's a different branch and therefore they can't they have to have human faces. I really think that's just shit. It was very much a Russell T Davies story, isn't it? It's the Doctor in a sort of domestic setting. It was funny, but it just, for me, didn't feel like it belonged. And with the time machine thing, where it's revealed that they're building a time machine, link into the cracks. If this time machine was, part of the cracks, when in fact it had nothing to do with it. Pandorica two-parter. Oh my god, where do I start? I do think overall the idea is really good. I do think that it is not really cool idea that it's the Doctor that they mistake. What I hate about it is that they conned us out of revealing it. I really hate that. I really, really don't like that, because the way they set it up at the end of Pandorica Opens, it would imply that either Omega or the Valeyard was the villain. The problem is that the next episode is just them running around, doing a bunch of random stuff, which admittedly is fun, and I do think that the end bit with the Doctor dancing is hilarious. I do like that. But they just really conned us out of an ending. You do not, who was the voice? Was it Omega? Was he plotting to destroy this universe since he can't be part of it? Was it the Valeyard who was framing the Doctor so they could, somehow steal his remaining lives? They just conned us out of an ending, and that's what really makes me angry with this season. They set up all this mystery, they imply very strongly that it could be Omega or the Valeyard, and then they don't even have the decency to finish the story arc properly. My big gripe overall with this season was the fact that there was a really poor use of both ideas and just the use of the 45-minute format, both one-parters and two-parters. The problem is the stories reveal the bad guys too early on, with the exception of Beast Below. But the problem is that in Dalek, Victory of the Daleks, which as I said is a remake of Power of the Daleks in World War II, the big problem here is that they make it so obvious that the Daleks are not being subservient this time. Now you could say, well, it was a no-brainer. They were going to do it sooner or later, but I would have rather that they kept this mystery going, and that the Dalek actually had a much bigger purpose in being there in World War II. I would have rather that than 15-20 minutes into the episode, it pretty much betrays them and goes up to its saucer in space. And I just felt that that was a really big waste of what could have been a genuinely cool idea, where the Doctor finally perhaps succumbs to the fact that maybe the Daleks have changed and this one is in fact fighting for Britain. They really failed to use both the 45-minute format and the two-part formats. As I said, they reveal the monster far too early on, they don't build up any mystery, and it just feels like they could have, you can tell that perhaps these were just first drafts that had to be pushed in. And that's what really let me down, was the fact that a lot of stories in this season were just bare-bone drafts, and there wasn't much development in ideas. I think Matt Smith makes a very good Doctor. I think he is very much, he's kind of like Pat Troughton and Tom Baker in a younger body, and I do like that idea. You can clearly see that that was what he was trying to put across. Karen Gilliam as Amy Pond is okay. Rory Williams, very stereotypical, isn't it? Sort of snidey, know-it-all boyfriend. River Song is good. I'm just so fed up with this character because, I understand that it's Stephen Moffat's creation, and yes, it, is kind of a neat idea that, she's sort of there as a spoiler almost, but that's my problem. Her presence there means that when Stephen leaves, he's tying the hands of the next producer in order to, so that his character will have to be included, as the new companion. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. It was a mediocre series with some cool ideas, but it just didn't really capitalize on them enough.